Is Australia's top writer on foreign affairs, Greg Sheridan of the Australian newspaper. Greg, great to see you. How significant is this assassination?
Well, Andrew, it's a useful thing. It shows that America can strike, and in a period of a couple of weeks where Biden has never looked more doddery, confused, hesitant, incompetent, and hopeless. At least it shows that it can still be dangerous to be an enemy of America's. But I think the implication in your intro that the Taliban is sheltering Al-Qaeda is undeniable.
Well, absolutely. It's incredible, isn't it? But that he still makes a promise, no, it won't be, when we actually see that it is. Zwairi was 71, very low profile for a decade. How dangerous was he still?
Well, Al-Qaeda has been somewhat eclipsed by ISIS, and it seems to be in a rebuilding phase. A lot of the terrorism from Islamists in the last few years has been localised and not directed precisely at the West. I mean, terrible things are happening every day in Africa. You know, Christians and moderate Muslims being murdered in huge numbers by Islamist extremists. At one level, Al-Qaeda cost the Taliban a lot because America went in 20 years ago and chased the Taliban out. But on the other hand, the ultimate victory of the Taliban allowed them to say that they had vanquished and beaten and defeated the United States. And the inability of the United States to set up a functioning government that it could ally with in Afghanistan remains a grave strategic defeat for United States power. Al-Qaeda is not what it was under Osama bin Laden, but we have no idea how the terrorists are going to respond in years ahead. Not respond to this killing, I mean, but they now have hundreds of thousands of active recruits, many more than they had at the time of the 9/11 outrage. So, look, killing their leader is very useful because nothing focuses the minds of a leader more than having a bomb drop on their tent. Colonel Gaddafi was much more cooperative after that happened to him. But, the terrorist challenge goes on. And Afghanistan, the Taliban is not keeping any of their promises, not to harbour terrorists, to treat women decently. Nothing that they promised is being honoured.
No, absolutely correct. Greg Sheridan, I'm appalled, and I know you've written about this, so I'll just insert this topic here. I'm appalled by the lies being told to sell Labor's racist idea of creating what I call an Aboriginal-only parliament in our constitution. Now, I showed last night the Prime Minister, for instance, claiming falsely that Australia denies Aborigines even the right to a happy life, that governments here have never consulted Aborigines, that they've caused them to die earlier by not listening, and that Aborigines have no right to expect even decency from Australians. Now, I think these appalling untruths are really dangerous because if Albanese's referendum on this Aboriginal Parliament succeeds, we get a form of apartheid. But if it fails, Albanese has now encouraged people to think it's just more proof of the shocking racism that he sees operating right to this very moment. The results, I fear, could be explosive.
Well, Andrew, I think that analysis is basically correct. I give Albanese some credit for producing the most modest proposal that you could get out of this amalgam of identity politics and madness which has gripped this discussion over the last few years. Almost everything said about this ridiculous proposal is untrue, including by most of its woke supporters in the white commentariat. It's not true that Australian governments have not consulted Aboriginals. That's just ridiculous. I wrote a column today opposing this proposal on first principles, but we went through the whole exercise of establishing the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islanders Commission, and there are a million mechanisms of consultation today. So almost everything that's said about it, I mean, to Albanese's credit, the modesty of his proposal is that Parliament would design and determine what this voice could do and who sat on it and everything. But if it can do that, then it could do that tomorrow. So if there is some gap in consultation, then just set the thing up tomorrow and don't go anywhere near the Constitution. But I think, you know, I don't want to sound
Greg,
too
I just want to pick you up on
pro-Albanese here,
something
but
you
I think
said
Albanese...
there. I just want to pick up on something, put something to you before I run out of time. You've said it's a modest proposal, and on the face of it might seem that, but how can you guarantee that this will just be an advisory parliament with no real power when the words that Albanese says he wants added to the Constitution actually say our parliament can make laws with respect to the composition, functions, powers and procedures of this Aboriginal voice? In other words, it could, once we've voted for it, give this Aboriginal parliament functions and powers, including real powers. What powers do you think Albanese is talking about, or some future government might decide to give such a parliament?
Well, I'd make a couple of points about that, Andrew. At least under this proposal, that would still be up to Parliament. So if Parliament made a stupid decision to give the voice excessive powers, a subsequent Parliament could reverse it. Whereas if those powers are enumerated in the Constitution, they would be irreversible. However, two real quick points. We have no idea what the High Court would make of this. The High Court has been so inventive in Indigenous rulings that we have absolutely no idea what the High Court could make irreversible. But secondly, whereas I would persist in giving Albanese some credit for getting the least terrible version of this this very bad proposal that he can, why has the Liberal Party not simply opposed the idea of a race-based provision in principle? We're still getting both Peter Dutton and David Littleproud and all the rest of them saying we want to see the detail. You don't need any detail about a race-based provision in the Constitution to oppose race-based provisions in principle. And in my opinion, the failure of the Liberals to do this
Greg,
is what has led us into this madness.
No, you're being unfair. They want to see exactly how racist they should be. Give them some credit. How racist and how dangerously racist will this be? We'll be a little bit racist, but we won't go the whole hog. I mean, it's just nuts. Greg Sheridan, your piece today, magnificent. Thank you so much for your time.